We're going to hang out with Vicki. We're going to talk about all things, catch up, spend a little time, and talk all things that we love, all things that we've noticed, all things that are happening in the world. It's always a fun time.
Look how you did that, like a total pro that you are. Felix, hi.
Hi.
I'm so happy to see you. It's been a while since we've chatted.
It has been. But it's always fun. I'm always super, super grateful, Vicki, that you asked me to hang out with you and talk with you. It's always a good conversation. And I take those in deeply these days. It's been a bumpy ride lately. So it's nice to be able to sit down and have a couple conversations. So,
you was just saying before we went on the air that you've had some difficult conversations lately, and we started to just touch on it. And I don't want to make this about that other than to touch on it. So can you kind of fill us in on what that's been?
Yeah, it's all about the work stoppage, right? It's all about the strike and how the writers stood up for themselves. And I, as an actor, have always believed that I'm a musician, that I'm a trumpet, I'm a sax, I'm a guitar, I'm an instrument of some kind, and I can't play if there's not music in front of me. And I've always believed that the writers are that music. They're the sheet music that we as instruments play. So without them, we're nothing. And so it's been a very interesting time right now to sit and have conversations with people who are on the other side of it. Well, I know people who are on the other side who are like, yes, but we can make this happen.
Wait. So like what kind of conversations have you had leaning the other way?
People in the artificially intelligent universe, where they say, but there's a possibility for us to be able to do this without them. And I've had to have very difficult conversations about, no, that's not, yes, it's possible, but is that what we want?
Felix, this is so horrific. Somebody told me they typed in my name and the name of my book, and AI wrote this whole thing as if it was me. And they said, oh, and it sounded just like you. And then I read it, I was like, no, it does not.
So there is a world, we're moving in it, toward it, that is going to start to coexist with it. But I don't know where I'm having hard conversations with people who are on the other side of it, like I said. And so I've been thinking a lot about that. I had a conversation just before we got on the air with a fellow artist who is having trouble on a project that they're working on, and it was because the certain people who were involved in the project were of a younger generation who sort of couldn't kind of grasp about getting ugly and being ugly in a character and sort of showing the ugliness of the character and I had to say, I'm glad I wasn't in the room, because I've spent my entire career being ugly. Right? I've spent my entire career showing people the ugly in us, in human beings, and it being something that they couldn't grasp as a younger generation. So I thought that was interesting, and that's again difficult conversation about having. But in regards to the strike, just so that we don't go too far off, it just felt to me like there is a reality where the industry can exist in a different way. I'll say it.
Okay, so can you give me an example? Give us an example of a situation where it would be a good thing, and it would enhance and be a benefit.
Everything that has been created through a computer has saved time.
True.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, I'm being very sophomoric about it, but I have to be, because we're at that base level of what is happening right now.
Right.
So everything that has ever been created through a computer saves you time.
Okay.
So if you need a script written and developed in 2 days because the production needs it in 2 days, then you have the capability of doing so. Right? Now, that's what I've heard people say that is a good thing.
Okay.
I have also said in return, I've seen writers, human writers,
yes,
write scripts in 24 hours, write scripts in 6 hours. I used to do this great marathon in New York. It was called the 10-hour Play Festival, where you would meet in the morning. And then within 10 hours of that meeting, you were on stage at night doing a production.
Unbelievable.
Right? And so
Unbelievable.
it's possible. We all have it in us. So there's a flip side to that. But people say, okay, so with the computer, you save time. With the computer, and this is what they, I think, are arguing, you save money because the manpower is obviously unnecessary.
Right.
So you start to see all these things that they say the good is in a financial place. I think it
doesn't it all come from the financial place when it comes to that
Fortunately, it
side of
does.
things? Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it does. And I also think that it's very. I think it's ironic. There was this great sort of, I want to say misreported or, misinformation story that recently released about a drone that was sent out, an artificially intelligently created drone with AI. And the testers didn't tell the drone, didn't notify the drone that the drone, when it went out, was going to be attacked while out. And that they studied it and they noticed that the initial response of the artificially intelligent drone had when we found out that there was a potential danger was to kill the messenger.
Wow.
That was the instinct. The instinct on the artificial intelligence was to kill the person who had just sent the message saying, you're going to be attacked.
Wow.
And so this idea that we've actually created something that's potential, that their potential initial response is to kill the person that created it, is a pretty thought-provoking, if anything.
Very thought-provoking.
You're like, oh shit, right? But anyway, so just things like that. And then at the same time, too, the Directors Guild is involved now, and I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe they sort of struck a deal with everyone, so they're sort of prepared to continue to work and be ready.
Oh,
and
really?
Then we're up on June 30th, I believe, where the actors are all sort of been asked to, contribute their thoughts and their vote.
I voted.
Yeah, and so the interesting thing is that you sit inside of a dilemma, which is, and this is, again, difficult conversations to have. You sit inside of the dilemma where you say, which one of the two is the lesser evil? Really? Do I sit and stand firm and be hungry for a little bit and go hungry for a little bit to get what we want? Or do I compromise and do I accept and then eat? Right? I mean, ultimately, that's the difficult conversation that everyone has to have with themselves. As you go, when you stand for something, you also have to be ready to sacrifice something. And it's just it's been interesting conversations I've had with fellow actors. Some, again, who are on the one side who are like, hey man, I'm broke, I need to do it, so I'm gonna chase reality TV, right? And then there are others who are like, well, I've worked, a good amount of years. I've amassed a little bit of cushion in my bank, so yeah, I can stand firm and wait and hold it out and so on and so forth. And then the difficult conversation with somebody like that is that you say, okay, well, you can, but can the, I don't know, 920 other thousand actors who are, right, the 1% versus how does that, these are all very difficult conversations that I've been having with fellow actors. But ultimately, I think at the end of the day, when you look at what is the most blatant discrepancy, it's that those at the top are making a lot, those at the middle and the bottom are not. And there's the undeniable discrepancy.
And where were you, Felix, in terms of when the strike struck?
Yeah.
Were you in the middle of, were you working?
We had just finished our 22nd episode of the first season of The Rookie Feds. Pretty much just came in. We had been done, I want to say was within not even a month. My dates aren't right, but I want to say it was within a month of wrapping. Yeah. So we had already finished. There were whispers on set where there might have been some asks to get scripts for the next season going. So that if
Because
we
you've been renewed.
we personally have not. The
I thought
rookie
you, I
feds-
thought, oh,
the rookie, the initial mothership has been
Okay.
picked up for a sixth season.
okay.
The rookie feds is still considered what the industry calls on the bubble.
I have good feelings for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have millions of positive, fond memories and experiential callbacks of this 22 episode season that I did with my cast and the crew and the directors and the writers and everyone all the way up to the top, to the network, that if it didn't, it'd still be the best summer camp experience I ever
How
had.
fabulous is that?
And if it does, it'll be just a sheer joy to just jump back in and hang out with those people and play and work hard and make it look easy, but it's hard, and and just go. I really do genuinely miss the people I worked with in front and behind the camera.
Mhm.
And at the same time, if all good things must come to an end, if it doesn't turn the way that it does, then I really don't have a single regret in any way. So, but yeah, so we're just waiting, and we'll
Well, it's a good time to be waiting.
yeah, there's the irony too, is that
Yeah.
we're on strike, and so I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, and we'll see. There's certain, whatever contractual things that have to be taken care of, but that's where the manager comes in, and she's one of the most incredible women I've ever had on my side in my life.
Okay, now is this still the manager that was Greg Allman's wife?
Correct.
Okay, which is also so bizarre because we go back
Yeah,
a
yeah,
million years, because
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
friend, my band master, my jam master, when I did jams in the 80s,
Knew her.
introduced her to Greg.
Yeah, they knew each
Yes.
other. Yeah.
So that's
Um,
crazy.
so yeah, so she's she's aware and she's on point, and we were just on the phone this afternoon talking and sharing our thoughts and checking in. So, but I think it's interesting. I think that when you stand in, like you said, we don't have to go too far on it, but it's an interesting thing when you think about the history of what a strike means. It means we're stopping what we're doing to send a message
Mhm.
and to
Well, not just to send a message, to elicit change. I mean, ultimately, it's to elicit
Right,
change, which
right,
is the
which is-
big.
you took the second thought right out of my mouth, which is
Yeah.
that you were stopping to send a message and to change the way things are going. Sure.
Mhm.
And so if that happens, then we've struck,
It's
metaphorically and literally.
we were talking about the AI. One thing, Teresa James, this fantastic blues singer, was telling me she does some music in the church, and she was saying that they needed a song for that Sunday, and it was Saturday night. She had a gig and it was late. She didn't have time to write a song, and her partner in the church gig did an AI song, and she sang it for me, and it turned out to be this fabulous, perfect little song. So that kind of stuff is a little scary and weird, but yeah.
I was having a conversation with my buddy earlier today about the concept that one's image, one's likeness is part of the whole artificial intelligence dilemma and argument, is that we can, like you just said, you can take your voice, you can type it in, you can insert it into a program, and then your voice is the voice. Or you can take my face, or you could pull the face of, which is, I thought this is a very interesting, again, kind of go back to the contractual thing a bit, that they can pull my likeness as Omar Navarro from Ozark and put it in another show, and they're not responsible to me in any way.
Wow, that's absolutely horrific.
Because that's not something that's literally in writing right now. And that could be what they're all.
That's
you know what I mean?
scary and crazy right
Yeah,
there.
it's an interesting thing. And see the yeah, I mean, again, it's a very interesting thing to just be like, the video game player in me is like, that's cool. Right? The kid who grew up playing video games is like, that's cool that you can take my face and put it on another place and I'm moving around and I'm doing things. That's a video gamer in me is like, that's fucking cool. But the integrity of it, my
Yeah.
pup's hanging out over there. But the integrity of it is in question. So
You know, it's what Tony is saying right here, that on the heels of the pandemic and all the lost income, that for so many people now having the strike is so ill-timed.
It's completely ill-timed. And there's also, there's a very interesting there's some of us who, like, I have put money into funds, literally funds, actor funds for people. And give me 1 second.
Sure.
Just want to make sure that
I have my Rufus. I understand. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. Hang on. Just give me
Go do what you have to do. We'll carry on without Felix as he tends to his puppy, because we understand about that puppy tending. Rufus is in the back with Snuffy behaving himself right now.
They're so fascinated by every little single thing that goes on in front of the house.
Oh God, yeah.
A squirrel, and they're like, I just had them relax and sit for a bit. But yes, you're right. It is poorly timed as well. So I have taken that into consideration, and I have put money away for people who I know and funds that I know will say, hey, if during the strike, we can put money in this food bank. People can go and get groceries there. We can do, like, I'm in that world. I swim
That's
inside
wonderful.
that world.
So Felix, the last time we chatted was just before the final season of Ozark was about to drop.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, you only knew what was going to happen to Omar. You did not know how the season was how this show was going to end. You only knew it was going to happen to your character. And we were talking about the fact that it was so ironic that here you were finally up front and center in this hugely successful show, in this hugely spotlit role, and you had to wear a mask. And so my curiosity is, now that the masks are off, have you gotten the attention and the recognition, or did too much time lag between the time that it hit the airwaves and now? And also, we also talked at great length about the fact these are the COVID crazies. We've talked about this before. I went live 7 days a week during COVID and didn't leave my house. And you were also very COVID cautious.
Super lockdown
and also super fearful, as was I. So how have you gotten it yet?
Every day, all day.
No. Did you get COVID?
Not at all.
All right. Boom, boom, boom. This is me either. And we discussed this too. We have.
Hang on. I'm going to say not at all, with the caveat of saying that
we don't know.
If I had it, I didn't know that that's what was it. There were many times where in Vancouver, I remember one time I was in Vancouver shooting my character's storyline for Charmed when it was still on the air. And there were 3 days where I couldn't get out of bed. I was like, I'm sorry, we're going to have to figure something out. I can't get out of bed. There was times super early on when I came here, I did a project for Apple TV called Amazing Stories, and I was here for 7 days, and for 3 of those days I could not move. I just thought I caught a bug. Right.
So okay, so we don't know.
And I've recently met an ICU nurse, and we were having conversations about it, because those to me are like the warriors of today. Whenever I get a chance to talk to somebody who was on the front lines,
yes,
like literally in the trenches,
Yes.
I sit them down and I go, not only are you not paying for dinner, but you're not leaving until you tell me your story, because you need
Wow.
to be heard, because you're somebody who stood inside and watched everyone annihilated.
Wow.
You're still standing. And
Wow.
the story needs to be told. So
Where is she an ICU nurse? What city?
she's a traveling ICU nurse. So she's now in Georgia, is currently in Georgia, and then then maybe moving to Florida, and she just travels
Wow.
throughout. Yeah. Because so the two places where when I'm away from home working,
Mhm.
I allow people to stay in my home, and usually it's people who are in the industry or people who are traveling nurses who are going to spend residencies in a certain city. If they choose this city, I go, hey, you can stay in my home and you can, live
Felix,
within there.
don't make
Because,
me love you more.
no,
Don't
I'm
do
just
it.
saying it's
Don't
like
do it.
no, because it's like they're doing their thing. But the whole point being that they're just the warriors of today. So, and we were talking, and she said something very similar to what we just talked about, which I said, did you get it? Have you gotten it? She
Did
said,
she?
no. She said, no, but
Right.
about 2.5 months before we were talking about it legitimately,
Right.
me and 4 of the nurses treated this young woman who came in for respiratory issues. We all took care of her as best as we could. We couldn't figure out for the life of us what was going on with her. We lost her. We were all baffled by it. And then 4 or 5 days later, the 4 of us were sick as dogs and couldn't come to work. We thought it was exhaustion, she said. We thought it was a little bit of emotional trauma where we were just beat up at the fact that we had lost someone.
Wow.
And I was like, what do you think? She's like, I don't know. But so, yes. So in that regard, we haven't gotten it.
Wow. Okay. So have you stopped? Okay. The last time we talked, I think you were, as with me, only eating at restaurants outdoors. If you went into the bathroom, you were putting on a mask, doing all, okay. You've now, since you fly, I have flown for the first time. Do you still take any precautions today?
I do. On flights. I'll still put my mask on at the discomfort of everyone around me, because now if you're wearing a mask, you're the one who's sick. Right?
Yes.
Right.
I was the only one on
you
the
put on a
plane.
mask. They're like, oh, that guy's sick. That's why he's wearing a mask. Because none of us are, right? So there's that. And then if I'm asked to be in a situation where I really genuinely don't feel in my gut is a safe place to not be masked, I'll put on a mask. You know what I mean?
Okay, so let's talk about what you said. You're going to New York, and you said you're going to hear music. So in those situations, like I just went and saw, I told you, Bruno Mars and James Taylor, and I was in a closed venue. I had only gone to the Hollywood.
Jealous, by the way, Vicki. Super jealous.
You should be super jealous.
Bruno Mars, James Taylor, come on.
Oh God, and I had an audience with God, with James Taylor. Yeah. Oh God. But so in those venues, I was okay. Do I wear a mask? Because I've only gone to like the Hollywood Bowl up until now. Sure. I did not wear a mask.
Okay.
I did not wear a mask. And the last time I went to Vegas and did things like this, I got it. I did not get COVID, but I got sick. I got a terrible, terrible cold that lasted 3 weeks. It was horrible. Yeah. So you going to see music. What kind of venues are you going to see music?
Jazz. I'm going to jazz venues.
You're going to clubs, little clubs.
Yeah, I'll be at Birdland, the Underground, the Cellar. Yeah.
Okay, so now, but you're in enclosed small places.
Yeah.
Are you okay to not be masked?
I am. I found my way to the place of being okay because it's always in my pocket.
It's always in my pocket too.
It's always in my pocket.
It's always in my pocket. Okay, I stopped
so that at any point, if I go, wait a minute. Yeah.
Okay, I finally stopped putting it on going into public restrooms. I was doing it up until maybe a month ago, and then I finally stopped. Have you stopped that?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, did you get another? We got another booster.
I stopped at the third.
Okay.
I
You
stopped.
can get another one now.
Correct. And I've been looking into it. I've been studying it, but I stopped at the third.
Because
it's a good question, Vicki. I stopped at the third because there was question about the fourth. I remember that second one, people were like, there was, the people that I trust and were saying it could help you, it couldn't help you. Like there was no like, this is gonna be 100% helpful.
You didn't take the one for Omicron?
No. I took the third.
I'm trying to remember if the third was the Omicron one. That was last
Maybe it was.
January or something.
Maybe it was. I'm not sure. I just remember getting the full. And
No, you didn't get the one for Omicron. I don't think.
Yeah, the two full and then the third. Yeah.
So,
but I also want to share with you that I, in a bizarre twist of fate, I literally kissed someone, and that afternoon they tested positive.
Me too. Me too.
And so experience.
We talked about this because I think there might be something to a natural immunity. I don't know. Yeah. Why would that not? I don't know why in that situation I wouldn't get it. I don't know.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know.
And more on more than one occasion. I sat in this very dining room and had dinner with 4 friends, one of which was closer to me than my arm's reach. She tested positive that afternoon. Nothing. Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
I went to an event at my mother's at this senior place, and I went to a Passover Seder there right before we were going to Europe, and they didn't tell me till I got back. 40 people tested positive with COVID that night and didn't get it. So poop. I have to poop.
Good.
Do all those things. But yeah, whatever that is. But I'm happy to see that you're more relaxed about it, because you were like us, COVID crazy. The last time we talked, you had gone through a lot of fear about. You had told me, I believe, that you were afraid it was going to get you at one point.
I was convinced that it was going to kill me.
Why is that?
Because my entire life, I have been the person. If I go back and I look at my experiences in life, my entire life, I have been the person that when the shit hit the fan, I stood up and I pushed my chest out and said, how do we clean that fan? And when this happened, I bolted into a room and locked the door. That was my instinct. And I thought, if that was my guttural instinct, because in the past, it's been the opposite. It's been, what is this thing? Let's go. Let's figure it out. Where do we go? What do we need? How many sticks? How many bats? Like, you know what I mean? Like how, and when this happened, the instinct was to hide and shield. And I went, okay, this is something different in me. This is doing something different in me. And if I had woulda, shoulda, coulda, hindsight, all of that, Vicki, but like if I had, instead of slammed the door, even just left it ajar to watch a little to see what, I may have maybe not felt like it was going to kill me. But the fact that I closed that door and stayed in the dark going, what is happening? That's where my mind went, this thing is going to take my life.
That is so interesting. I know you meditate.
Yeah.
Did you seek answers for that in your meditation? Did you get any? No,
my meditation practice at the time helped me sleep. It helped me. It helped me during the times when there was nothing to be done, as Beckett says in Waiting for Godot, nothing to be done. And when there was nothing to be done, the meditation helped, meaning there was no way to find, there was no adventures to try and find the toilet paper. There was no, well, what are we eating right now? Okay, how do we take care of the dog? Like when there was no tasks that needed to be done, and it was just quiet time. There was nothing supposed to be happening. That's when my meditation practice helped me, so that in those times I didn't go a little nutsos,
So how, Felix, did you go from that to getting to the point where now you can get on the plane, you can go to Birdland, you can do these things and stop wearing your mask and know that it's in your pocket, but go through? Was there a turning point? Was there a moment? Did it happen gradual? For me, it was kind of gradual, I think. And for me, it hasn't been that long. It's only been a few months. How did this happen for you?
There were three things. One was I had to work. I had to work. There was no option not to work, which meant I had to engage in the world.
But even when you went back to Ozark, I remember the first day you went back, you went to a party. There was the christening scene, right?
175 extras.
But they were also coming up to you and putting the mask back on you and doing all
shielding
that.
me, literally. Right. There was a person who came in with a shield like this in front of me. Yes, so all of that. But three things happened. I figured I had to go, I had to work. I wasn't not going to be able to be that. So that helped. Having to work during it helped to stare it more in the face more often, right? The second thing,
the sets started to become much more relaxed. Those protocols started to fall away, correct?
For everyone except us, because if the actor got sick, we couldn't shoot the scene.
But it wasn't like that on the Rookie Feds.
We were masked.
Okay.
Every single person not in front of the camera was masked the entire season. Yeah, we were the only ones, which is what I'm saying. That's the other thing, is that I couldn't do a scene with the mask on my face, right?
Right.
I had to take it off.
Right.
So having to work forced me to have to accept that I have to live in a world where there's a virus out there that I am not wearing protection for. Right. So having to go back to work because I had to pay the rent, but also having to be in a position where the only way I was going to work was if I removed my mask. So that, again, the more I did that, the more I was like, okay, cool. I just did that. I put it back on. Am I sick? I haven't been sick. Okay, cool. It helped that productions were, for lack of a better way of saying it, Vicki, they were up my ass about testing. They were testing me 3 times a day. Every single day. All day long. They wouldn't let me leave my trailer until I was negative. So that helped to have the consistency of being told you don't have it, you don't have it, you don't have it, you don't have it, you don't have it. That does something. Right. And then the third.
So Felix, wait, I'm sorry to interrupt. While you were going through that, were you living life off the set differently because you were going through that?
No.
So were you going into restaurants? Were you? No,
I would go to restaurants to pick up my food and go home. Yeah.
You were still living carefully.
Absolutely.
Even just this most recent season of filming.
During the most recent season of filming, I didn't want to be the one. I don't think anybody did, right? Like nobody wanted to be what we were on set, what we affectionately call the a-hole. Like nobody wanted to be the a-hole.
Did you not get shut down?
Towards the end of the season, we started getting a couple of positive cases that had to adjust the schedule a little, work around the necessary requirements, the protocols that then get put in place when someone does test positive. So we worked around it a little bit in there, and there were some false positives and all kinds of, we had to work through it. But that was really, I want to say, like maybe episode 20, 21, maybe 22,
Wow.
22 episode season. So we went
Wow.
pretty far, doing really well,
Mhm.
doing super well. We did really, really well. And then thirdly, and I think this is for me what has helped me personally the most outside of all the practical of it,
Mhm.
is that even to this day, I have never lost the respect for this virus. I have never lost this is bigger than me.
Mhm.
I have never lost it. I still to this day maintain the respect that there is something out there that can kill you.
Mhm.
And I've never lost that respect.
Mhm.
And with continually to maintain that respect for this thing, I have been able to find a way to live with it.
Okay, so now going to the airport, you're going to go to the airport on Friday.
Mm.
You're going to go to New York, the
Mhm.
most crowded airport, okay.
Yeah, I'm flying into
So
Newark.
I went on a plane for the first time in COVID going to Europe, and
Yeah.
I wore a mask in the airport. I wore a
Yeah.
mask on the plane. I did take it off to eat
Yeah.
because a long flight. I got boosted 2.5 weeks before I flew, so I felt pretty good.
Protected. Yeah.
I felt pretty protected. When you get on the plane,
Mhm.
do you have concern, or do you
Of
feel at
course.
this point you
No,
do?
of course I do. Of
Mhm.
course I do.
Will you take it off and have a drink and have something to eat, or do any
Sure.
of that? You will.
Sure.
Mhm.
Sure. Sure.
And will you, will you test like when you get to New
Absolutely.
York? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Again, I have a profound amount of respect for this thing.
Mhm.
Some would say respect/fear. I've changed the fear I have for it to respect for it.
I like that. And so now when you go into a place like Birdland and you're gonna
Yeah.
be sitting inside and you're gonna be doing that,
Mm,
are you having thoughts while you're doing that?
of course.
Should I be wearing a mask right now? Should I
Of
whip
course.
that? Because that's what I do. I go,
Sure.
I don't do it now,
Sure.
but I'm like, should I be putting there's someone
Sure.
over there with a mask on. I should probably put my
Sure.
mask on. Yeah.
Sure.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah. I put myself to and try. Sometimes it's not possible, but put myself in like a spacier
Right,
part of the club or
right.
distance. There's a great little alcove at Birdie. I call it Birdie, that you can sit sort of behind the bar. And, you got a little
Mhm.
distance from people. But I have this respect, and part of that respect helps. What helps me with that, inclusive of that respect, is the respect for others.
Mm.
If I walked in a room and they said, "I'm sorry, you need to wear a mask," I go, "Absolutely,"
Mhm.
and I put it on. The respect for others who say you cannot come in without a mask. Okay, great. The respect for others who say, "We can only have you if you test negative. We can only have you here if you." I go, "Absolutely. Where's the test?" I maintain that respect for the people who felt and still feel that it's an important thing to do to protect yourself.
Okay, but what about those other people, Felix? Because now I find that there's the mask backlash, like the
Sure.
people that,
Sure. Yeah, the people who
are
look at
looking
me when
like,
I
what
have
the
a
hell?
mask on and they think I'm wearing a mask because I'm sick.
Or that you're crazy,
Or that
or
I'm crazy, or that
yeah.
I'm out of my mind or whatever.
Yeah.
I think I have not to date encountered someone who has confronted me about
Mhm.
being someone who wears a mask. I do know, and I have heard and been within earshot of conversations of people being like, "Why do you don't even wear a mask? We don't need to wear a mask." And we're like, "Well, that's BS or whatever."
Mhm.
But I want to believe that if I'm ever confronted about my mask wearing, I want to believe that my response would be, "I never knocked you for not wearing one.
Mhm.
So don't knock me for wearing one." Because when we
Good
were all
answer.
told, that we had to, and you didn't, I never knocked you for it.
Well, I did in my head. I judged them like crazy up here.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
I was
But
like,
I didn't, you know what I mean? I just thought to myself, I don't agree with it, but I'm never gonna look at you and spit on the ground in front of you if you're not wearing one.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So,
All right, so let's get back to my earlier
yeah,
question. So we're wearing a mask,
yeah.
Ozark drops. This is like the biggest moment in your career. The time goes on. Have you reaped the attention you deserved? What is it like for you? Do people
It's a
have,
roller coaster ride, Vicki. It's such a roller coaster ride. I've had people come up to me. Not a day goes by that I'm not in public where I'm not approached and addressed.
I love that.
And it's gone from, can I please show you a photo of your character's mural in my living room wall? Literally, and to God,
That's
literally,
priceless.
to being told that they are that I'm too afraid to talk to, that they are too afraid to talk to me, I was approached by a gentleman who said to me, I do what you do.
Oh,
He said to me,
wow.
I do what you do, and you do it well.
Wow.
And for a second, honest to Pete, for a second, I thought, should I let him know I'm an actor and that's not real? And I thought, but if he does what my character did, I maybe don't want to let him know.
No.
Because I don't know if I want to see what his reaction will be. The gamut has run every color under that rainbow from.
I'm sure there are a lot of people who are somewhat afraid of you. There have to be people's natural inclination to be terrified of you, actually.
Who said, I'm sorry, can I approach you? Literally. And I approach her and I'm like, yeah, of course, because it's me. This right here. And I'm like, this is me. I'm like, yeah, of course. You okay? What's going on? Like I literally ask as if I'm saying, like if they're about to say, hey, where is Fifth and Main? I'm like, oh, Fifth and Main is just you go down the street, like they're gonna ask me directions or something. And I go, yeah, of course. And they go, you are so, and then they'll be very, very complimentary in their most non industry eloquent way, you know, you were so scary, or I believed you 100%, or like I used to, I had a gentleman say to me, I sat my son down and said, watch this guy is, scary, or like you run the gamut, but all of it.
I bet you've also had women that have been like thrown themselves that like were turned on by that guy. There has to have been some of that.
There was a gentleman recently at a restaurant who turned to me and he's like, hey man, you're really great. Don't mean to bother you. I just want you to know my wife has a big crush on you. And I go, that's very sweet of you. And I said, don't worry about it. You're a handsome man. You got no competition. But yes, they've said that, or they've been like, that's sort of I have a friend whose friend recently was like, oh my God, I can't believe you know him. And it's because it's not me. It's the thing that has been portrayed and the thing that has been shown. The piece of art that has been shown is what they're responding to ultimately. Because if they think that that's the guy that's sexy, and then they meet this guy who's like, no, that's not the guy.
Not at all. But okay, so
yeah, no, it's an interesting thing. What I've done is I followed my mother's lesson, which was whenever someone wants to, she scolded me about this very early on, and I learned the lesson and I've kept it. Whenever someone wants to give you love, for lack of a better way of saying it, offer you accolade, as the young kids say now, give you flowers, right? She said, if you negate it, if you diffuse it, if you do something other than just simply accept it and say thank you, you are denying that person their experience.
Oh, that's lovely.
Right? You're denying the person the experience of giving you, because when humans give, they feel good, right? When they give, they feel good. I challenge that in my mind sometimes. I want to always feel like I'm practicing, like I'm giving with no expectation of return. And that's, for me, my practice as a personal and a spiritual person. But people feel good when they're giving, right? They feel good. And so when you're giving someone a compliment, you are giving them something. And if you say, no, I know that was nothing, or you know what, the show, I mean, whatever, the show's it was a piece of cake. You're denying that person happiness, joy, feel good. So, and my mother taught me that early on. So when it started to happen, I was like, oh, great. I've had all this time in mask. So I've got a lot of time to make up for, I got a lot of thank yous that I can, I have a lot of backed up thank yous. So I'm going to keep using them and continually, people say it all the time, like, oh my God, you must get annoyed with it. And I go, no, it's an opportunity to say thank you. It's an opportunity. It's always going to be an opportunity to say thank you. No matter how drunk those 4 guys were at Yankee Stadium who came over and threw their arms around me and we're throwing selfies and we're like, this is the effing guy right here. And I'm like, I love going to the games. I'm a big Yankee fan, so I go to the games, but sometimes the guys get a little too, and then they're all in your space. And there have been times too when it's become thought-provoking, where the space is invaded in a way that is I'll use the term ignorant. It's ignorantly invaded. And then you have to sort of find the right kind, direct thank you to give, which is
I would think you could intimidate somebody right out of that kind. All you have to do is give them a little Omar and just kind of push them right away.
Yeah, I mean, there have been times when I've said, thank you, that's very kind. I'm gonna go ahead and continue my meal now, if that's all right with you. And they go, oh, right, of course. But it's the initial break. It's the initial, you live inside of a person's living room, right? And that show, I mean, if you watched it properly, you watched it at night in the dark.
Yeah.
Sometimes by yourself or just with another person, right? And you're there. There's a blue tint, and that blue tint psychologically puts you in a blue light and a blue district. And there you are. And there is this person. And it's just you and them. And then you walk into, the Iberian Pig tapas bar, and there he is sitting at the bar having a glass of wine. You're like, holy, you're right. There's a thing that happens.
Yeah.
I do it myself. I've experienced it myself. Whenever I go to the Yankee game or I go to the Knick game or I'll go to a football game or whatever, and I see, I was walking through the parking lot of a football game a couple seasons ago at MetLife and go to see my Jets, and I'm walking through and there's Wayne Corbett, who was a middle receiver for the New York Jets. He's walking in the parking lot, and I went, that's Wayne Corbett, right? And I went, I watch him on TV and go every time he caught the ball. And there he is walking right in front of me. And I know that feeling where the fantasy meets the reality, like a thing. And I see it in people's faces. And it's a very.
So tell us what that's like for you, Felix, because you've been an actor for a long time. You've been doing brilliant work for a long time. And here's this thing happening to you. And so it has to be fun.
It's enjoyable when the ego is in check. I was at an event, and it was a popular event in Los Angeles, and I was approached by an incredibly famous person. and they complimented me on my performance in Ozark. And they walked away. And I said to myself, oh Lord, so-and-so just gave me a compliment. And I literally could feel my feet coming off the ground. Right? I could literally feel myself floating off the ground. I ran into the bathroom. I got into the stall. I shut myself into the stall and I said, bring your feet back to the ground, Felix. This is not what it's about. I literally did that, Vicki. I went into the stall and I went, bring yourself back to the ground. And I grounded myself. And I said, this is not for you. This is not for you. This is for the world. This is for the universe. What is for you is that you can stay grounded. And if you can stay grounded in it, then you can enjoy it. So I got right back down to the ground. I took a breath. I left the stall. I left the bathroom. I went back to the party and I met up with my publicist. And she was like, where'd you go? And I said, oh, no, I just had to go check myself real quick. And she was like, did you see? And I was like, yeah, he talked. And I said, I know. And it was great. Then I was able to enjoy the fact that that person came to me and gave me flowers.
I've never heard this give me flowers thing. This is what the kids are saying.
Yeah, that's what the kids are saying. We'll give me flowers.
So Tony's going, who was it? Who was it? Felix isn't going to tell us. He doesn't
but the idea, the whole idea being that it was a moment where you could feel yourself getting away from yourself. And I had to pull that back. Right.
It's interesting because I got a bird's eye view to someone that I've always thought of as like one of the humblest celebrities in the world. Not James Taylor, for all of those thinking that because I just met him, I'm talking about him, because I'm not, because he is incredibly humble and wonderful. But I kind of got a backstage view of someone who it turns out is not the humblest person in the world. And it was shocking. It was disappointing.
Sobering.
It was very sobering, and it made me very sad.
Yeah.
It made me really sad.
Been there. I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
I've acted opposite people like that. I've shared art with people like that. And I didn't like the feeling. I didn't like the feeling. And so I thought, you know what? I'm not going to do that either. Having said that, I'm able to enjoy when people honk the horns. I'm walking the dog down the street and they'll honk the horn and be like, rookie fans, and they keep driving. I'm like, what's up? I can enjoy that now because I'm walking the dogs when it's happening.
And you do it. So you're doing a very mundane human
experience, keeping it superhuman to the point where I gotta here, I'll show you. This is, I know people want to know names, but this is a message I got on Instagram.
Okay.
That I kept because I knew that at one point I was going to have a conversation like the one we're having, where I could share it.
Okay.
Right? It's an incredible message. Hello, I'm taking a shot in the dark here. I'm assuming it was you crossing the street just now on 42nd Street and 9th. If it is, you are an incredible actor, and how you're able to just simply walk down the street in the middle of New York City and feel as if you're home and draw no attention to you whatsoever makes you an even better actor. Your fan. And then she put her name down. I got that message and I read that and I was like, thanks, Mom.
Tony's saying here, aren't we allowed to lift like a balloon once in a while? And yeah, you are saying that you do lift like a balloon, like when people drive by and scream out rookie feds and blah, 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 that it does lift you up in that way. And it is
Well, I'll tell what I would share with Tony is that I do let myself get lifted like a balloon when when something like that happens and it's not the most famous person I've ever met. Right? When it's not based in some kind of value system, that instead it's just literally this person didn't even stop me on 42nd and 9th and said, hey, are you? They just looked me up and sent me a message and said, was it you? If it was, that's awesome. You're awesome. And that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, those moments.
Or for example, something that just happened last week, the last time I was in New York, I went into a sneaker store. I've been collecting some fun old sneaker stuff that I enjoy, that I didn't had as a kid, I don't have now. And I'm like, cool, let me buy myself a couple pairs of shoes that I miss. And this young gentleman was working and helping me out. And he was like, I'm from Puerto Rico. I spent the last 2.5 years taking care of my parents because they're getting older and I had to set them up, but I'm an aspiring actor. And, I watched you and you're awesome. And that's great. And I was like, cool. That's very sweet. Good for you. Nice to meet you. And I left. And then I called the manager of the store the next day and I said, who's the young gentleman? What's his name? Got his name, looked him up, sent him to my theater company's intensive ensemble, which is a school that my theater company has, and asked them to please contact him and say, hey, if you want to come aboard and hang out and take our summer intensive ensemble classes and do all of that stuff, we got you, right? So I do live in that world. I don't force myself to live in it, because feeling like if I say I'm forcing myself, it means I never want to do it. I just live in that world. Anyway, that.
So, okay, so life has changed in that way that now people of note and people are every day, you're getting that sort of recognition. Are the offers changing? No. Now, what the hell is that about?
I can't. The offer is not me, so that would be a report on the reporter, right? Right, that would be a report on the reporter. I couldn't tell you why someone else is not offering me a role. I couldn't tell you that. I couldn't answer for someone else's action.
Well, you've worked steadily since. I mean, it's not like you haven't worked the whole way.
Yes.
So it's not like you've been available to get something.
Correct. One. Yeah. Two, I've also not ever. The last time I was offered a role without showing them what I could do in the role, there was a huge conflict of interest. And so they offered me the role. I came on board. I started performing the role, and they were like, that's not the role at all. That's not how we see the role at all. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I only can assume that when you offered me the role, you were going to be okay with how I played how I played the role. And there was a conflict there. And it was such an uncomfortable experience that I have since then always been, if it ever, maybe twice it's happened. So I'm not saying that it's happened a lot, but maybe twice I've had the experience of saying, we want you to consider this role. And I'd say, I love the role. It's great. Let me put myself on tape for you and show you what I would do with the role.
Wow.
So I'm still going to audition for you, because I want to make sure that you're saying to me, you want me to consider this role, but this is how I would play the role. So let me show you that. Are you good with that? Great. I'll take the role.
Wow.
Which is dangerous in so much as that, when you think about
you might be giving it away.
I hate using the term starving artist, but when you look at it from the starving artist perspective, you're like, you don't want that because you're giving them an opportunity to say no to you. But the truth of the matter is that rather them say no to me now than not say no to me, I show up, I start throwing the ball with my right hand, and then they go, he's a lefty. Right? Yeah. So the offers haven't come. That doesn't mean I won't again consider them. And what I do is when I would like to believe that I would practice if I was offered something,
Mhm.
I would go, I'm incredibly grateful and humbled and thankful for the offer. Let me put myself on tape for you to show you what I would do with the part.
Mhm.
Whether my manager would agree with that or not from a business perspective, that's something we always get into, but that's what I want to believe that I would do with every offer that came my way. I'd be like, cool, I like this role. Let me give you 3 minutes of it on video, and let me,
That sounds so wise to me. How would you feel about doing theater now, Felix? With the respect for the virus and all of that stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's interesting. I think my friend David and I were having this conversation this afternoon where he was like, look, man, if film and television goes the way of AI, then we're doing theater for the rest of our career. And I was like, ooh, yeah. So I would be okay with it. I would openly admit that I would probably stumble and fall and trip and mistake until I got to the right place. It would take me a little bit. Like, to use a baseball term, I'd strike out a lot more times before I'd start getting hits to get myself back into theater, because I've been in front of a camera for quite some time. And the last play that I did was the play you saw. That was the last stage performance that I was able to muster. And that happened in 10 days flat, fast, and going, and that was it.
Unbelievable that you learned that so quickly.
Well, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Some would say I threw spaghetti up against the wall and went like this, and oh shit, it's stuck. Let's go, But
why did it stick?
But for me it would be yeah, I would start doing theater, and maybe I wouldn't, I don't know, I doubt it would happen, but I don't know, I wouldn't jump straight to the Broadway level. I would maybe go and do another play at a 60-seat theater, and then maybe not be the lead of the play, and maybe play a part, like, just to get myself, because I know that I would stumble and fall on the way back to getting into theater shape.
Well, I don't know if I agree with you that would happen to you, Felix. I'm
We'll
not.
See, I don't know. I mean, that's where I would go. That was my feeling. That would be my feeling. Be like, cool. I'll do a play. Can I be like the fifth lead in the play? I'll just be the guy who walks in and goes, "You went that way." Like, I do that.
The spear carry, didn't it used to be the
all
spear
of that,
carry?
all of that.
Okay, so now do you and Lisa still have the Subway token
We're
films?
talking films, yeah. We were super excited and jazzed. A fellow co-worker of ours put her own film together based on a short story that was a piece of theater that she had developed and worked on, and we watched it, and it was so beautifully done that we got inspired to move in that direction, which is as opposed to building our own content, we're currently looking at and reading short stories that others have written and said this would make a great piece of cinema, and then slowly approaching the writer who wrote the piece and saying, hey, how would you feel about writing a 10-minute? So we're the direction that we're pushing our company in is to find the already beautiful piece of gem and then make it a cinematic.
So you're looking to do short
Always. I think, yeah, I think the shorts. I've been approached by dear friends of mine who are producers who have been like, let's make a movie. And I'm like, sure, we can make a movie. If I was pushed in the direction, or I was, as we say in the meditation world, if I was charmed by the idea of making a movie, I would probably lean toward doing something that I think is, again, to use a term that I struggle with, but a bucket list item, which would be to do a historical character, a portrayal of a historical character, to find someone that I could historically portray.
Okay, so give us for instance, such as
Ozzie Guillen. You know who Ozzie Guillen is?
I don't.
Ozzie Guillen was a baseball player who went on to manage the White Sox, Chicago White Sox. Charismatic, Venezuelan.
What years was he in the?
He played during the 80s,
Why don't I know
90s,
who he is?
and then managed for the late 90s and took I think he took I could be wrong, but I think he took the White Sox to the World Series, and he was just always such a great, charismatic, fun, inspirational, but fiery and boisterous. He was always fighting with the umpires, but also would get on camera and interviews and just defend his players all the way. And I watched him and I'm like, that's a guy who I also, in an ironic and I think necessary way personally, resemble too. I kind of resemble him a little. So in spirit and even in physicality. So yeah. So, I would look at somebody like him, somebody like Freddie Fender,
Ooh.
who I've listened to Freddie Fender. My dad and I sat in his coffee colored Mustang and threw in the 8-track, listened to Wasted Days and Wasted Nights as a kid. And I'd sit there next to him while he sat and looked at the moon, smoking cigarettes. And I was like, so Freddie Fender, somebody like Freddie Fender.
But you wouldn't consider doing the cost of living?
I don't think I can. I don't think from a legal standpoint, I think it's already sort of, it's kind of, it's super.
Because it's a small little, you wouldn't need a lot of stuff, right?
The perfect film.
Yeah.
It's a perfect film. I recently just, ironically enough that you're bringing this up right now, Vicki, because this very afternoon I sent the writer a text and said, hey, I think I already know the answer to this, but are the rights to
I've been thinking this since the minute I saw you in the play. This needs to come to film. Yeah.
I sent her a text. Politely, as they say, a light nudge, lightly nudging in the direction of, is it possible? Is it not possible? I think I can only assume that if the play has made itself to Broadway, and not only has it made itself to Broadway, but it played so well, 3 of the 4 actors were nominated, including Katie Sullivan, who did it with me.
Yes.
And they've all been nominated. My best friend played Eddie.
Oh, wow.
David Zayas, nominated for a Tony.
Wow.
The playwright, the production, the director. So it's gotten a huge accolade boost. And I can only imagine that within that world, there's already a sort of lock on it. But I did, be very frank with you, I extended this very afternoon. I sent her.
I'm so glad that you did. And maybe that's the universe talking.
Just putting it out there.
Because I see.
And truth be told too, I think I'm not afraid of the fact that if the playwright, if Martina Mayuk said, that's on lock, that I wouldn't be like, well, can we start a conversation about your writing, and your writing fits, your music fits my instrument fits your music. So
absolutely,
would there be something that I can encourage you to maybe put together for me to portray as well?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Felix, I know you have to go do another Zoom, and so I'm going to be respectful of your time. But it's always so wonderful to spend time with you. And
how you doing? Talk to me. You kid. So you just showed me the T-shirt.
So yes, my daughter is going to go to USC Law School, which is, and she went to Tisch first, and being an actress was everything. Sure. She got out of college in the pandemic, and there was no work. Sure. So she started working at a law firm. And
great.
Okay, I'm going to go to law school.
I'm going to tell you something. I got a buddy.
Yeah.
Who I grew up with. Yeah. Gregory Esposito. Huntington, Long Island. Mm-hmm. Fine actor, fun, just couldn't make it, couldn't do the thing. Like, again, to use a sports analogy, just couldn't connect with the fastball. He teaches lawyers acting classes.
I love that.
He teaches lawyers. I don't know if he may even have become one himself. If you looked him up, probably he's already a lawyer at this point, but he never lost this, I'm going to use a term, but the performance aspect of it, because as lawyers, they need to present cases. Mm-hmm. It's a public speaking.
Absolutely.
Profession. Mm-hmm. So she's not going to not be acting.
That's for sure.
Right?
That's for
she
sure.
She will not be publicly speaking. So, mm-hmm. Which is cool, but that's great. I'm glad. The congratulations to her, and that's a good thing when you achieve something like that. That's a good thing. So go USC. There you go.
There you go. There you go.
You're USC mom.
You see, Mom, I got the
Well, there you
t-shirt.
go.
I got the t-shirt.
Yeah.
Well, have a wonderful trip to New York. Okay, are you freaked out about the yellow air? I mean, I'm freaked out about you going there.
I'm more concerned about my dad. My dad's there now. My dad still lives there, and he smokes 2.5 packs of cigarettes a day. He's one of those guys. He's been doing that for the last 70 something years. So I'm a little concerned with him. I just think mask up.
Yeah.
Right.
Although my sponsor's actually there, and he told me that it's eyes. The eyes are burning and stuff.
Okay, so you got to get something to cover your eyes. Okay, so you goggle up, you mask up, and you goggle up.
You goggle up. You're gonna look great.
You get the stylish ones. Get some pink tint or whatever.
I love it. I love it.
I didn't know that. That's interesting to know.
Yeah, it's having a lot of impact on people's eyes. So just be aware.
Yeah. I'll definitely. Somebody sent me a photo, like I was saying earlier.
Crazy.
This guy was almost urine yellow, and I was like,
it's terrific. Well, anyway, have a wonderful trip. I hope you enjoy all the music you go to hear. And pizza. You have to have pizza. Come on.
We'll get a couple slices. Yeah, we'll get a couple slices. Put one on top of the other, the way Tony.
Yeah, I got it. And I always think, when I hear the slice, I always think of Tony Manero, of John Travolta walking down the Brooklyn Street, right, carrying the slice in the wax paper. People who aren't from New York don't understand the wax paper slice, right? But that's the way we eat pizza.
Well, real quick though, it's interesting. It's interesting you bring it up, because it's just real quick. I had a very in-depth, interesting conversation with people about pizza in New York. They've always said, okay, you're a New Yorker, you were born and raised in New York. What's the best pizza in New York?
Okay, what's your favorite?
Never
pizza?
ready for my answer. They're never ready for my answer.
I'm not going to be
the
ready.
Best pizza in New York is your pizza. Is the pizza shop that you walk into and you buy a slice and you go, this is really good pizza. That's the best pizza in New York, right? It's not going to be. If I send you to Joe's, you're already.
Joe's is my favorite pizza.
Okay, there you go. That's what I'm saying. But like, if I send you to Joe's,
then you're going to say this place is better. Yeah.
They're going to be like, oh, well, wait a minute. This is all right. Yeah. But you know what? I just went to Al's on 14th and 9th, which has been there, a year, 2 years. But that was really good pizza. So the best pizza in New York is always your best pizza. It's your pizza is the best pizza in New York.
Well, have a slice of Joe's for me while you're down there.
I usually do. I land, I go straight to the house, I drop off the bag, and then I go downtown.
Joe's,
that's usually what I do.
Oh my God, I can't take it. I miss it. Anyway, right, I adore you, Felix. You're just such a joy. And, it's not just, we didn't even talk about your craft and your art and who you are as a performer, which, I spew that stuff all over and I'll write about it. But beside the fact that you are one of my favorite actors that I have ever seen on a stage, in my living room, you did it in my living room. And then what you do on screen, I have never, ever for 1 second caught you acting, ever. And
I fancy myself when I find myself saying this to the people I feel most intimate with. So I'm just a guy who acts. I really am. I'm just a guy.
You're just a guy who acts, and I just want to watch you wherever you do it, because I just appreciate that about you. And just the man that you are is even more astounding to me almost. So thank you so much for taking the time. It's always wonderful to spend it with you. Have a great trip to New York.
Thanks. I will.